Welcome to your Barbados Today Evening News Update for Tuesday, September 11. I'm Fernella Wedderburn. Thanks for joining us. Former Prime Minister Owen Arthur has doubts that the International Monetary Fund will rubber stamp the government's plan to restructure state-owned enterprises. Arthur, a noted economist, says the plan does not entirely line up with the IMF's recommendations to restructure public enterprises in its December 2017 article for consultation. Delivering a public lecture entitled "The IMF and the Caribbean: New Directions for a New Relationship" last evening at the Kayville campus, Arthur suggested that there was cause for concern.
In structuring an arrangement with the government of Barbados to reform the operation of enterprises owned by the government of Barbados, a report prepared by the International Monetary Fund staff was prepared and submitted to the government of Barbados in December 2017. It is highly unlikely that the fund will totally ignore the recommendations it submitted in a special report to the government of Barbados in 2017 on the issue of its statutory enterprises, and it is even more unlikely that the fund will be prepared to be guided only by the submissions that the people have been invited recently to submit to the government on this matter. So what we have, a report prepared by the fund December 2017. This is how to deal with the statutory institutions. The government of Barbados says, I want you all to send me your thoughts as to how to deal with this. It is unlikely that the fund is going to ignore its own advice and says, let me see what you all have collected at Sherburne, and we will follow what you have done.
Last Friday, Prime Minister Mia Mottley and the Chief of the IMF mission to Barbados, Bert Van Selm, announced they had reached a $290 million staff-level agreement. Arthur said the funding was not enough, and he cautioned not to rely solely on IMF funding to return the economy to growth.
I do not wish to speculate unreasonably on the components of Barbados's proposed fund program with the fund. Indeed, I don't know what they are. What is known is that to stabilize Barbados's foreign exchange reserves to sustainable levels or acceptable levels, Barbados has to increase its reserves by about $600 million. The funds that are said to be on the way under its proposed EFF will not be $600 million and will not be in and of themselves be enough to deal and solve the country's external reserves problem. There will be a need for a policy dimension in order to help to control the reserves.
In other news, Parliament today opened a debate on abolishing the mandatory death sentence. However, the matter was suspended to allow government to review the Offences Against the Person Amendment Bill 2018. Before the move, Energy and Water Resources Minister Wilfred Abram explained that the move was necessary to bring Barbados in line with international best practices.
Nothing we're doing here abolishes the death penalty. What we are doing simply is abolishing the mandatory nature of the death penalty and making corrections and amendments to legislation to give effect to that. Now, if we go a little bit further, Mr. Deputy Speaker, it is not as if we had a choice. While we might have delayed in following the dictates of the Inter-American Human Rights Court or following the dictates of conventions that we are signatories to, from the time the CCJ made the ruling that the mandatory death penalty was unconstitutional, the CCJ set out what the new law for Barbados was going forward. So the law was already decided with the decision of the CCJ in the Nervé case. all we are doing now is making the legislative amendment that reflects the decision of the CCJ and making our laws harmonize.
At the same time, opposition leader Bishop Joseph Arthur told the House that he supports the retention of the death penalty, but called for some improvements.
I would also want to put on the table and in the mix, for balance, that though those who are found guilty of murder perhaps should not find themselves mandatorily faced with a sentence of death because certain rights are enshrined in our Constitution and other bits of our legislation that guarantees them right of protection and right to life and safeguards against degrading and inhuman treatment and all of that. Arguably, we must also consider that these things must be subject to the rights and freedoms of others. Because at the end of the day, we must never lose sight of the fact that no matter what my rights might be as constituted legally, when I infringe on the rights of others, I imperil myself and run the jeopardy of losing some of those rights.
The island's Deputy Fire Chief Henderson Patrick is this evening praising the fire prevention measures implemented by store owners in the city. In fact, he says these measures averted possible disaster in the city last night after fire gutted 2 Swan Street stores, B Sharp Textile and AG Deli. Officer Patrick told Barbados Today recently installed firewalls on the buildings housing Dallas Discount and Kazzy's helped to contain the blaze. He said initial inspections after the fire indicated that the structural integrity of the adjoining buildings have not been compromised. This morning, when Barbados Today visited the scene, Dallas Discount was open for business, while the workers at Kazzy's were busy cleaning up the store to open during the day. Last night's fire broke out just 7 days after the 8th anniversary of the tragic Campus Trains store fire in Student Street, which claimed the lives of 6 young women.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
BIT's Central Bank Meets Blockchain Conference is the only conference in the world that brings together regulators, governments, and private entities to discuss how they might work together using blockchain to make a positive impact on the lives of the people in the Caribbean.
We are so proud to host this forum, which allows for constructive dialogue and engagement because it recognizes the transformative potential of distributed ledger technology and the work that BIT is doing in the region.
Blockchain technology has the power to address the demand for easier and real-time KYC solutions while improving overall KYC standards. With the advent of digital currency, these AML solutions can strengthen compliance like never before.
We have an excellent lineup of speakers, including our keynote speaker, the Honourable Mia Mottley, Prime Minister of Barbados, the Honourable Alden McLaughlin, Premier of the Cayman Islands, Dr. Jack Meaning, economist from the Bank of England, Therese Turner-Jones, the General Manager for the Caribbean Division of the IDB, and many more noteworthy speakers who you don't want to miss.
The Inter-American Development Bank supports this event and is our platinum sponsor. We're so grateful to them for their support and acknowledgement of our work.
We hope you can join us on September the 18th, 2018 at the Hilton Barbados Resort to hear what leaders in the region and in the blockchain space have to say about the role of blockchain technology in promoting social inclusion, financial empowerment and economic growth for this and future generations. See you there.
To the region now, Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit appealed to Dominicans to be ready as forecasters issue a hurricane watch for the island as Tropical Storm Isaac treks across the Atlantic. In a national address today, Skerrit urged citizens to take all warnings seriously.
The fact remains the storm is some distance away from us and anything can happen. Our hope and prayer is that it weakens and it goes away, and there'll be no impact on our country and our residents. But we must not be like the foolish virgins. We have to prepare and ensure that we prepare to the fullest possible extent. We all have vividly in our memories what happened to us in respect to Hurricane Maria, and the speed at which it moved from a Category 3 to a Category 5, which was the quickest in history, 36 minutes. And we all suffered at the hands of Hurricane Maria. So as far as the National Emergency Planning Organization is concerned, we are taking no chances.
And further afield, the powerful Hurricane Florence threatened to bring days and days of rain and potentially deadly flooding to the U.S. southeast coast, where thousands have been evacuated. More in this report from Reuters Television.
More than 1.5 million people have been told to flee their homes as Hurricane Florence barrels toward the eastern seaboard. The Category 4 storm is the most powerful hurricane to threaten the Carolinas in 3 decades. It's packing winds of 130 miles per hour and is expected to grow even stronger before making landfall on Friday.
There's currently nothing that's projected to slow the storm down, to weaken the storm. We are planning for a hard impact of a Category 4 storm somewhere on the coast of North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia. We will experience power outages. We will have infrastructure damage. There will be homes damaged.
Many South Carolina residents say they don't want to leave. Others say they're out.
Over the years, I have seen the damage that these storms can do, so I don't really want to take no chances on them.
Trump tweeted his support for the Carolinas and Virginia Monday night, urging residents to take all necessary precautions.
And that's news, but for the very latest, visit our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper email updates or like us on Facebook and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media and bus terminals as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. And you can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM. I'm Fernella Wedderburn. Good evening.